Welcome to this deep dive. We are going to unpack a story of resilience and faith and an against all odds victory. You ready?
Sounds intriguing. Let's hear it.
All right, so we're going to be looking at the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem.
After the Babylonian exile, right?
Exactly, and we'll be focusing specifically on Ezra chapters 4 through 6. It's a story full of political drama and, well, prophetic pronouncements. It's actually a really inspiring story.
You know, what truly sets this apart from just like an ancient construction project is the temple's significance.
Yeah.
I mean, for the Israelites, it was like the physical embodiment of God's presence.
Right.
So rebuilding, it wasn't just about, bricks and mortar.
Yeah.
It was about renewing their covenant with God, that binding agreement.
Right.
And reclaiming their identity.
Right.
As his chosen people.
Okay, so imagine this. You are an Israelite, just back from exile, ready to rebuild this sacred space. It's like a fresh start, full of hope, right?
Absolutely. Full of hope, excitement, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know that they lay the foundation. There's a twist. Their neighbors offer to help.
Okay.
Groups who'd settled in the region during the exile, they want to pitch in.
Yeah.
Now, on the surface, it seems like a welcome gesture, right? Help with this massive project.
Yeah, for sure.
But we need to consider the political landscape. It's not quite that simple.
Okay, I'm all ears. What was going on? That made a seemingly generous offer so complicated.
Well, these groups, they weren't acting out of pure altruism.
Okay.
They had their own allegiances to the Persian Empire, which ruled the region. Some may have genuinely wanted to participate, but others, they likely saw a chance to, influence or even control the project.
Right.
Imagine the implications. It could dilute the Israelites' distinct religious identity and their unique covenant with God.
That puts a whole new spin on help, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it?
So how did the Israelites respond? Did they accept the extra hands?
Zerubbabel. He was the leader of the rebuilding effort.
Okay.
Along with the other leaders, they made a bold decision. They refused.
They refused. Wow.
Yeah, they recognized the potential for their sacred project to be compromised.
Right.
So they said no. This was their God-given mission, something they needed to undertake on their own terms.
Okay, that must have taken some serious guts, right? Turning down help, especially when starting from scratch, what were the risks in refusing that offer of help?
Oh, there were significant risks. I mean, they were already vulnerable, having just returned from exile.
Right.
Refusing assistance from powerful neighbors.
Yeah.
And that could have led to further isolation, economic hardship, even physical threats.
Yeah.
But they understood the stakes.
Yeah.
This wasn't just about construction. It was about preserving the purity of their faith and the integrity of their covenant with God.
It really highlights their conviction. This was about more than just appearances. It was about the core of who they were as a people. So what was the reaction to their bold move?
This refusal, well, it didn't sit well with everyone.
Yeah.
It sparked opposition. Those who felt slighted, they weren't going to let things go easily.
Okay, so how did this opposition manifest? What tactics did they use to try and stop the rebuilding?
It was multifaceted.
Yeah.
First, they employed psychological warfare.
Okay.
Spreading rumors, sowing seeds of doubt among the workers,
Right.
hoping to demoralize them, make them question the entire endeavor.
Classic tactic. Even today, it's so much easier to tear something down than build it up.
Yeah.
But it sounds like they went beyond just whispers and negativity.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They upped the ante by hiring advisors, experts in legal maneuvering and political manipulation to create bureaucratic roadblocks, their aim, to stall the project through red tape and legal challenges. And as if that wasn't enough, they went straight to the top. They wrote formal accusations to the Persian king,
Oh, wow.
claiming that Jerusalem, with its rebuilt temple, could become a hotbed of rebellion against the empire.
Wow. Playing the rebellion card, that's a serious escalation.
Yeah.
Did these tactics have any effect on the Israelites?
Sadly, yes. The combination of, that external pressure, bureaucratic delays, and the internal discouragement, it proved effective.
Right.
Imagine the impact on those who had poured their hearts and souls into the project. It's a potent reminder. Even the most righteous endeavors can face setbacks.
It makes you think, doesn't it? How often do we see similar tactics used even today to undermine positive change? Misinformation, legal battles, attempts to silence those working for a good cause. It makes you realize that the fight for something meaningful rarely comes without challenges.
You're absolutely right. It really highlights the need for resilience, for standing firm in your convictions, even when powerful forces try to, undermine your efforts.
So the Israelites hit this major roadblock. They've poured their hearts into this, refused help to protect their faith, and now they're facing powerful opposition. What happens next? Did they just give up? Or did they find a way to overcome this seemingly impossible situation?
That's where the story takes an inspiring turn. Just when things seemed bleakest, two figures entered the scene, not politicians or military leaders. They were prophets, Haggai and Zechariah.
Ah, prophets. I'm intrigued. What was their role in all of this? How did they change the game?
These prophets were messengers
Mm.
sent by God to deliver a vital message.
Okay.
They urged the Israelites not to let fear or discouragement paralyze them and to resume the temple's construction. Their message was clear. God was with them and would see this project through to completion.
I can imagine that after all the setbacks and opposition, their message would have been a breath of fresh air. Did they just offer like general words of encouragement, or was there more to their message?
Haggai and Zechariah, they delivered specific messages, divinely inspired. That went to the heart of the Israelites' struggles. They reminded them that their spiritual well-being was intertwined with the temple. Rebuilding it wasn't just a physical act.
Right.
It was about restoring their relationship with God, the foundation for everything else in their lives, including their national security.
It's fascinating how they connected the spiritual and the practical. Building the temple wasn't just about pleasing God, but it was about the well-being of the entire nation. How did the people respond to this call to action?
Inspired by the prophet's words, Zerubbabel and the high priest, Jeshua, bravely restarted the work. They even defied local officials sent to stop them.
Wow.
This was a pivotal moment. They chose faith over fear, action over apathy.
Choosing to go against the authorities couldn't have been an easy decision. What do you think gave them the courage to take such a bold step?
Their unwavering faith, fueled by the prophet's encouragement, gave them the strength to stand up for what they believed in. It's a powerful testament to how faith can embolden individuals to provide the odds, even when facing significant consequences. And their actions set the stage for a dramatic turn of events.
This is where it gets really interesting. The local officials, seeing their defiance, weren't about to let this go unchallenged, right? What happened next?
They reported the situation to King Darius, the successor of Cyrus, who had initially authorized the temple's rebuilding. You might think that would spell trouble for the Israelites.
Yes, you'd expect a king to come down hard on those who defied his officials, right? Did Darius react with anger and punishment?
Surprisingly, no. Instead of a knee-jerk reaction, Darius ordered a search of the royal archives. He wanted to find documentation related to the temple project to make an informed and just decision.
A search of the archives. That sounds like something out of a historical thriller. Why was it so important for Darius to find this documentation?
Remember, ancient empires were vast and complex.
Right.
To maintain order and avoid accusations of arbitrary rule, kings often relied on records and decrees from previous reigns. Darius needed to understand the historical context before making a judgment on the temple's rebuilding.
So the fate of the temple and potentially the Israelites hung on what these dusty old archives held. What did they find?
They unearthed the original decree issued by King Cyrus, clearly authorizing the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem. This discovery changed everything.
That's incredible. Talk about finding a needle in a haystack. It sounds like divine intervention was at play.
It's hard to argue otherwise. This seemingly mundane event completely shifted the situation. Darius, bound by the precedent set by his predecessor, not only allowed the work to continue, but went a step further.
He did more than just allow them to continue. This is getting good. What actions did Darius take that were so unexpected?
Get this. Darius commanded that the expenses for the temple's rebuilding be paid from the royal treasury. Not only that, he threatened anyone who tried to hinder the project. The Israelites went from facing accusations and opposition to receiving royal funding and protection.
Wow. It's amazing how quickly things can change. What looked like a devastating blow turned into a resounding victory. Do you think Darius was simply following protocol, or could there have been more to his decision?
While respecting the decree was likely a significant factor, it's interesting to note that Darius went above and beyond simply allowing the work to continue. He actively invested in the project and ensured its protection. Perhaps this act was influenced by a growing respect for the Israelites' faith and their determination. Or maybe he saw a strategic advantage in supporting a loyal group within his empire. Whatever his motivations, his actions were undeniably pivotal in the temple's rebuilding.
It's a great reminder that sometimes the path to achieving a goal is far from straightforward. It's about persevering through challenges and trusting that a greater plan might be unfolding even when we can't see it. Now, with royal support and financial backing secured, did the Israelites face any further obstacles, or was it smooth sailing from here to the completion of the temple?
Well, they had overcome the major hurdle of opposition and earned royal favor. However, the actual construction and the dedication of the temple brought their own set of challenges and triumphs.
I'm eager to hear about those. But first, let's take a moment to really grasp the significance of this turning point. Here's a group of people who were exiled, stripped of their homeland and their sacred space. They returned with a dream, a hope to rebuild what had been lost. They faced seemingly insurmountable obstacles, opposition from powerful neighbors, and the daunting task of starting from scratch. Yet, through unwavering faith, perseverance, and what could only be described as divine intervention, they found themselves not only allowed but actively supported in their mission. It's truly an inspiring testament to the power of faith and determination.
It's a story that resonates throughout history, offering hope and encouragement to anyone facing seemingly impossible odds. But the story doesn't end there. The construction of the temple, the rituals, and the impact it had on the Israelites' lives are all crucial parts of this incredible journey of restoration and renewal.
You've piqued my curiosity. After a quick break, we'll dive into the final chapter of this story. We'll explore the completion of the temple and the profound impact it had on the Israelite community. Stay tuned. All right, so we're back, ready to dive into this final chapter of the temple rebuilding. It's amazing how this story has unfolded, right? From exile and then all this opposition to royal support.
Yeah, quite a journey.
It really makes you wonder, what it must have felt like to actually see that temple finally completed.
Oh, I can imagine. After years of, struggle and setbacks, to see the temple standing tall, like a beacon of hope,
right?
A testament to their unwavering faith.
Yeah.
It must have been a momentous occasion, not just for those who built it, but for the entire community.
I bet there was a huge sigh of relief, just this overwhelming sense of joy.
Absolutely.
Do we know how long it took to actually construct it once they had Darius's support?
According to Ezra, they completed it in a remarkably short time, just 4 years.
4 years.
After restarting the work.
Wow.
And they held a grand dedication ceremony on the 3rd day of the month of Adar, a time already associated with celebration and anticipation.
4 years. That's incredible considering, the scale of the project and all the previous delays. What can you tell us about this dedication ceremony? Was it a somber affair or was it, joyous and celebratory?
It seems to have been a beautiful blend of both. The Israelites, filled with gratitude and relief, offered lavish sacrifices to God, acknowledging his faithfulness and provision.
Right.
They also held a massive Passover feast, a powerful symbol of their liberation from exile and the renewal of their covenant with God.
That sounds like an incredible experience, a moment where, the weight of history and the struggles, the triumphs, it all came together. They weren't just dedicating a building, were they? It sounds like they were rededicating themselves to their faith and their identity as God's chosen people.
Exactly. The temple wasn't just a structure. It was the heart of their spiritual and communal life. And, it's important to remember for the Israelites, the idea of covenant was central to their relationship with God.
Right.
It was a binding agreement, a promise of mutual loyalty and blessings. The rebuilding of the temple symbolized the reaffirmation of that covenant, like a fresh start, filled with hope and possibility.
So, in a sense, they were rebuilding their relationship with God right alongside the physical structure.
Yeah.
But what about the everyday lives of the people? How did the completion of the temple, how did that impact them?
Well, the temple's presence, it had a ripple effect throughout their society. It became a hub for religious observance, a place for prayer, sacrifice, and communal gatherings. It provided a sense of stability and continuity and connection to their history and their faith. The rituals performed there, the festivals they celebrated, and the laws upheld it all served to shape their worldview and their daily lives.
It's fascinating to consider how this one structure played such an important role in their society. But looking beyond the historical context, what lessons can we, as modern listeners, glean from this story?
This story, it's a timeless parable. It speaks to the power of faith and resilience. And that belief in something larger than ourselves, it teaches us that even when facing seemingly impossible obstacles, perseverance, and trust in a higher power, that can lead to extraordinary outcomes.
I think that's a message we all need to hear sometimes. Life can throw us curveballs, and it's easy to become discouraged or lose sight of our goals. But the Israelite story, it reminds us to keep going, keep believing. Trust that even when things look bleak, a breakthrough could be right around the corner.
And it also reminds us we're not alone in our struggles. Just as the Israelites had their leaders, prophets, and even a Persian king to support them, we also have people around us who can offer guidance and encouragement and practical help. It's about finding those who believe in our vision and being willing to lean on them when we need to.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the rebuilding of the temple, what would you say is the most important takeaway for our listener?
The rebuilding of the temple, it wasn't just about, bricks and mortar. It was about restoring a relationship, reaffirming a covenant, rekindling a faith that had been tested, but not broken. It's a story that reminds us that even when things fall apart, even when we're forced into exile, whether that's physically or metaphorically, there's always hope for rebuilding, for renewal, and for a triumphant return.
And maybe, just like the Israelites, we're being called to rebuild temples in our own lives. Now, these might not be physical structures, but they could be relationships, dreams, even our own sense of purpose. This story, it encourages us to embrace that call, to face our challenges with courage, and to never lose sight of the hope for a brighter future.
So listener, what temple is God calling you to rebuild? And how can you apply these lessons of faith, resilience, and divine intervention to your own journey?
Hold on to those questions as you go about your day. And remember, you have the strength, the support, and the guidance to create something truly remarkable. Thanks for joining us on this